Hello, Karen Moxley's class. Well, I'm going to finish Chapter 3 of The Outsiders. I'm in my car. I travel a lot here and there, and I had a moment to pause, so I figured, okay, I'm going to finish Chapter 3. So we stopped on page 45, and said, "Pity the back seat," Two-Bit said to the sky. "If you're looking for a fight," Two-Bit cocked an eyebrow, but it only made him look more cool. "You mean if I'm looking for a good jumping? You outnumber us, so you'll give it to us?" Well, he snatched up an empty bottle, busted off the end, and gave it to me, then reached in his back pocket and flipped out his switchblade. "Try it, pal." "No," Cherry cried. "Stop it." She looked at Bob. "We'll ride home with you. Just wait a minute." "Why?" Two-Bit demanded. "We ain't scared of them." Cherry shrugged. "I can't stand fights. I can't stand them." I pulled her to one side. "I couldn't use this," I said, dropping the pop bottle. "I could never cut anyone." I had to tell her that, because I've seen her eyes when Two-Bit flicked out his switch. "I know," she said quietly, "but we'd better go with them. Pony Boy, I mean, if I see you in the hall at school or someplace and don't say hi, well, it's not personal or anything, but..." "I know," I said. "We couldn't let our parents see us with you all. You're a nice boy and everything." "It's okay," I said, wishing I was dead and buried somewhere, or at least that I had on a decent shirt. "We aren't in the same class. Just don't forget that some of us watch the sunsets too." She looked at me quickly. "I could fall in love with Dallas Winston," she said. "I hope I never see him again, or I will." She left me standing there with my mouth dropped open, and the blue Mustang vroomed off. I walked on home mostly in silence. I wanted to ask Johnny if those were the same, I'm going to say socias, because when I would talk to people from that era, they said it was greasers and socias. But even though how the author spelled it here, it sounds like you would say socks. But we're going to say socias. That had beaten him up, but I didn't mention it. Johnny never talked about it, and we never said anything. Well, those were two good-looking girls if I ever saw any. Two-Bit yawned, as if we sat down on the curb at the vacant lot. He took a piece of paper out of his pocket and tore it up. "What was that?" "Marcia's number. Probably a phony one, too. I must have been out of my mind to ask for it. I think I'm a little soused." So he had been drinking. Two-Bit was smart. He knew the score. "Y'all going home?" he asked. "Not right now." I had wanted to have another smoke and to watch the stars. I had to be in by 12, but I thought I had plenty of time. "I don't know why I handed you that busted pop bottle," Two-Bit said, getting to his feet. "You never use it." "Maybe I would have," I said. "Where you headed?" "Gonna go play a little snooker and hunt up a poker game. Maybe get rip-roaring drunk. I don't know. See y'all tomorrow." Johnny and I stretched out on our backs and looked at the stars. I was freezing. It was a cold night, and all I had was that sweatshirt. But I could watch stars in sub-zero weather. I saw Johnny's cigarette glowing in the dark and wondered vaguely what it was like inside a burning ember. "It was because we're greasers," Johnny said, and I knew he was talking about Cherry. We could have hurt her reputation. "I reckon," I said, wondering if I ought to tell Johnny what she had said about Dallas. "Man, that was a tough car." Mustangs are tough. Big-time socias. All right, I said, a nervous bitterness growing inside me. It wasn't fair for the Sox to have everything, socias to have everything. We were as good as they were. It wasn't our fault we were greasers. I couldn't just take it or leave it, like 2-bit, or ignore it and love life anyway, like Sodapop, or harden myself beyond caring, like Darry, or actually enjoy it, like Tim Shepard. I felt the tension growing inside of me, and I knew something had to happen, or I would explode. I can't take much more. Johnny spoke my own feelings. I'll kill myself or something. Don't, I said, sitting up in alarm. You can't kill yourself, Johnny. Well, I won't, but I gotta do something. It seems like there's gotta be some place without greasers or socias, with just people, plain, ordinary people. Out of the big towns, I said, lying back down, in the country. In the country. I love the country. I wanted to be out of towns and away from excitement. I only wanted to lie on my back and under a tree and read a book and draw a picture and not worry about being jumped or carrying a blade or ending up married to some scatterbrained broad who with no sense. The country would be like that, I thought dreamily. I would have a yeller-curd dog like I used to, and Sodapop could get Mickey Mouse back and ride in all the rodeos he wanted to, and Darry could lose that cold, hard look and be like he used to be. 8 months ago, before Mom and Dad were killed, since I was dreaming, I brought Mom and Dad back to life. Mom could bake some more chocolate cakes, and Dad would drive the pickup out early and to feed the cattle. He would slap Darry on the back and tell him he was getting to be a man, a regular chip off the block. And they would be as close as they used to be. Maybe Johnny could come and live with us, and the gang could come out on weekends, and maybe Dallas could see that there was some good in the world after all. And Mom would talk to him and make him grin in spite of himself. You got quite a mom, Darry used to say. She knows the score. She could talk to Dallas and keep him from getting into a lot of trouble. My mother was golden and beautiful. Pony boy, Johnny was shaking me. Hey, Pony, wake up. I sat up shivering. The stars had moved. Glory, what time is it? I don't know. I went to sleep too, listening to you rattle on and on. You'd better get home. I think I'll stay all night out here. Johnny's parents didn't care if he came home or not. Okay, I yawned. Gosh, but it was cold. If you get cold or something, come on over to our house. Okay. I ran home trembling at the thought of facing Darry. The porch light was on. Maybe they were asleep and I could sneak in. I thought I'd peek in the window. Sodapop was stretched out on the sofa, sound asleep, but Darry was in the armchair under the lamp reading the newspaper. I gulped and opened the door softly. Darry looked up from his paper. He was on his feet in a second. I stood there, chewing on my fingernail. Where the heck have you been? Do you know what time it is? He was madder than I'd seen him in a long time. I shook my head wordlessly. Well, it's 2 a.m, kiddo. Another hour and I would have had the police out after you. Where were you, pony boy? His voice was rising. Where in the almighty universe were you? It sounded dumb even to me when I stammered. I went to sleep in the lot. You what? He was shouting, and Sodapop sat up and rubbed his eyes. Hey, pony boy, he said sleepily. Where you been? I didn't mean to, I pleaded with Darry. I was talking to Johnny and we both dropped off. I reckon it never occurred to you that your brothers might be worrying their heads off and afraid to call the police because something like that could get you two thrown in a boys' home so quick it'd make your head spin, and you were asleep in the lot. Pony boy, what on earth is the matter with you? Can't you use your head? You haven't even got a coat on. I felt hot tears of anger and frustration rising. I said I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to, Darry shouted and almost shook. I didn't think. I forgot. That's all I hear out of you. Can't you think of anything? Darry, Sodapop began, but Darry turned on him. You keep your trap shut. I'm sick and tired of hearing you stick up for him. He should never yell at Soda. Nobody should ever holler at my brother. I exploded. You don't yell at him, I shouted. Darry wheeled around and slapped me so hard that it knocked me against the door. Suddenly it was deathly quiet. We had all frozen. Nobody in the family had ever hit me. Nobody. Soda was wide-eyed. Darry looked at the palm of his hand where it had turned red and then looked back at me. His eyes were huge. Pony boy. I turned and ran out the door and down the street as fast as I could. Darry screamed, Pony boy, I didn't mean to, but I was at the lot by then and pretend I couldn't hear. I was running away. It was plain to me that Darry didn't want me around, and I wouldn't stay if he did. He wasn't ever going to hit me again. Johnny, I called, and started when we rolled over and jumped up almost under my feet. Come on, Johnny, we're running away. Johnny asked no questions. We ran for several blocks until we were out of breath. I'm going to open up the back windows here. Let's see. Hang on. We ran several blocks until we were out of breath. Then we walked and I was crying by then. I finally just sat down on the curb and cried, burying my face in my arms. Johnny sat down beside me, one hand on my shoulder. Easy, pony boy, he said softly. We'll be okay. I finally calmed down and wiped my eyes on my bare arm. My breath was coming in quivering sobs. Got a cigarette? He handed me one and struck a match. Johnny, I'm scared. Well, don't be. You're scaring me. What happened? I've never seen you bawl like that. I don't very often. It was Darry. He hit me. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't take him hollering at me and hitting me too. I don't know. Sometimes we get along okay, then all of a sudden he blows up on me, or else he is nagging at me all the time. He didn't used to be like that. We used to get along okay before Mom and Dad died. Now he just can't stand me. I think I like it better when the old man's hitting me, Johnny sighed. At least then I know he knows who I am. I walk in that house and nobody says anything. I walk out and nobody says anything. I stay away all night and nobody notices. At least you got Soda. I ain't got nobody. Shoot, I said, startled at my misery. You got the whole gang. Dally didn't slug you tonight 'cause you're the pet. I mean, golly, Johnny, you got the whole gang. It ain't the same as having your own folks care about you, Johnny said simply. It just ain't the same. I was beginning to relax and wonder if running away was such a great idea. I was sleepy and freezing to death, and I wanted to be home in bed, safe and warm under the covers with Soda's arm across me. I decided I would go home and just not speak to Darry. It was my house and as much as Darry's, and if he wanted to pretend I wasn't alive, that was just fine with me. He couldn't stop me from living in my own house.